Good. So here I am with Jim. We're here in Andalusia in southern Spain,
Lanjarón.
in
Lanjarón.
Lanjarón, where the great water comes from in Spain. And as you can see, if I point the camera outside, it's a blazing hot day. It's like 36 degrees or something. And we're in this huge warehouse that Jim has appropriated for the purposes of creating this epic vision of hers. And this huge space is filled with very, very big canvases. It's an amazing commitment to your art, Jim, and your work in general. And it's so inspiring. I've been seeing you put it together over the last few months and seeing it finished. I mean, last night I was doing some drawing and it took me about 4 hours to do one tiny little figure. And I thought, Jim's probably done 2 huge canvases in this.
Yeah, but I find I can do them quicker than some of the small ones. Everyone sort of focuses on all the details.
Yeah.
Whereas you can be a bit, you know, throw paint around.
Well, your process and technique is astounding, and I know your history is in film sets, creating these amazing, huge vistas and walls and stuff, and so that must have helped.
Oh,
give you the
I've been used to
confidence.
doing really big work
Yeah.
on film sets.
But what was the initial spark of doing this? Why did you want to
Something
do
I've
this?
always wanted to do. It's just like a sort of bucket list thing. Because you know, if I leave it too long, I won't have the energy. It's really exhausting, but at the same time, it's given me so much energy. I've just got so much energy.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I've been looking for a warehouse for about a year, and I found this one. It's really expensive. I thought, oh, do it. And I've only had 3 months. The 3 months isn't up yet, but I've sort of done one a week, really. You know, about stretching them. I've had to, you know, stretch them myself, and then all the prep with the sewing, and it's quite a lot of work.
Immense amount of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of physical work, and I've had to do it all on a ladder. I didn't have any scaffolding.
Yeah.
But I'm used to that. I prefer a ladder. It's more versatile.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was going to paint. Every single canvas was a blank, and I had no idea what was going to go on there. So I didn't have a plan.
That's a big leap of faith, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just think inspiration comes. You know,
absolutely.
All the stuff I do, I never know what it's going to be or anything, and it's just making your first marks, and then it kind of develops from there. That's how I like to work.
Yeah.
And if you're not inspired, you should.
Yeah. I mean, the only other artist I can think of who's working on this scale is Damien Hirst. You know,
really?
Does these huge pieces,
Huge compared to some.
Oh, well, maybe Ai Weiwei.
He
has a warehouse full of about 50 assistants making his work.
Yeah, well, I've got a store master.
Wow, I mean, eventually, I can see you doing. This is just the beginning, isn't it? I can see you going way beyond.
The thing is, I want to do one of total abstract.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready because I haven't been ready for abstract. I've developed from very figurative when I was young. It was all been very big, and then 10 years ago, I kind of.
Nevertheless, looking at paintings, there's a lot of abstraction there.
Yeah,
right?
it's a bit of both. But it's not.
Let's have a little walk around, and let's start. Should we start with this one? What's
this
this
one's
one
called
about?
Red Herring.
Right.
And it's about the pollution in the sea and the plastic, and I've described that plastic bag as a squid, really, as if it's a squid.
Yeah.
And there's no fish anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's all the nets at the bottom of the trawlers, you know, rip the ocean bed, and it's basically. But I wanted to show that the sea is really beautiful and colourful.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to. The subject I've chosen for this show now, you know, seeing what I've done, it's a very depressing stuff about the world, very depressing. But I wanted to make pretty pictures out of something very dark.
Oh.
I don't want to have, you know, death and whatever on the paintings. I want to make them as beautiful as I can with that subject.
A beautiful death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I love it. I love that dynamic. Let's zoom in on some of this mark making here. Now I can see these are predominantly acrylic, right?
Yeah, well, mainly.
And then, but there's crayon marks, charcoal, pencils, all sorts of things.
Actually, I used,
Yeah.
you know, when you roll a bucket.
Yeah.
I use
Oh, yeah.
I use that as
Yeah.
a stencil
Yeah.
and sprays.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
use spray
Yeah,
cans.
yeah.
So you can use anything you want. And that was the only one thing I wanted to write loads of times.
Right. And did this start? Has this had a lot of metamorphoses? Is there other paintings that you've gone over? And...
Oh no, that one was immediate.
Right.
Some of them have been had two underneath, but this one. Now what happened is I didn't have anyone to set me up.
Yeah.
First, and so I had at home I can do 2 meter by 2 meter paintings.
Yeah.
So I took 2 canvases off and I staple them together, so it's 4 by 2. This is the smallest one.
Right.
Just to get me started, I wanted to get on with it as soon as I moved in.
Okay. What about? Let's talk about the color composition on this. Now, what is it with the big pinks and blues?
Well,
they're recurring colors for you, aren't they?
You know, you know, if it works together, if they sort of complement each other.
Right.
You know, sometimes I'm not happy, and then I change it, and it basically, you know, when it works, and you know when it doesn't work.
Right. Intuitively.
Yeah. You know, I can't bear it.
Let's move on, Max. I want to do some close-ups of the paintings, and I'll focus on Jim. Okay, what about this one? Without actually standing in front of it, Matt?
This one's called On the Rocks.
Come closer, Jim.
It's called On the Rocks, and it's about, you know, the ice caps melting and what is going to be left of them. There won't be very much nature. There's a sort of remains of a little castle at a distance, and life is sort of dying, and there's hardly any clouds in the sky.
I thought it was like an aerial photograph at first, but then I realised they're actually faces, aren't they?
Well, I've sort of kind of done a lion's head and a bird looking down, as if like they're frozen in time, and basically time has, you know, it's past the point of no return, and that kind of link between the two masses is sort of plea to. Oh, there's a piece of nylon hanging from it. A sort of link to try and keep it all together, try and make us stop ruining the planet.
That also reminds me of like some of the early cave art, the colours.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I work quite a lot on that, the textures and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's one of my favourites.
The colour, I often do these little squiggles, and it's just to represent energy that's still alive. Energy is moving around. Well, the work has a lot of energy. I mean, you can see it. So nevertheless, you're quite orderly with your. You're quite tight. Up a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been great. To just throw rags on the floor. I'm going to put up that side.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I had this for an exhibition about 6-7 years ago, and so I thought I'll block out the dates and change them.
Now this one's a completely different
this one was
character, isn't it?
This was after the sea one. I did that as a sort of just experiment in abstract, because I'm not really an abstract artist. And I left it as it was, because I thought if I just go over it and ruin it, as I do if I carry on. And it's basically, it's called Sixth Sense. And it's about the what is it called now? STEM education, which is all about technology, science, maths, and there's not enough art, music, theatre, literature in schools, and schools are run by businessmen now, art schools. There's no passion for teaching art. And I feel that, you know, art is really good for spiritual development. And
what about the numbers? What are the numbers?
I'm into 3s and 6s. My number's 6.
Right.
And I just magic numbers.
Okay, great. Are you superstitious?
No, not really. I know you are.
I am very.
No, I rather not.
No. Okay, and now let's go on to this one. This is another one of my favourites.
The exhibition, which is called Terminal.
Okay.
About pollution,
Yeah.
the stench of, it's seeping into the air, into the sea, into the earth. It's just seeping everywhere. That one was really enjoyable to do. It just came out just so well, so quickly. And then the animals are turning into distorted beasts and they're suffering from the pollution. And here, I really enjoyed doing this. It was like I got a rag with just dipped it in white paint and just slapped it around. And I just thought, yeah, it's coming together like that. It was like really messy.
Great.
I love doing that one.
Yeah. I really love the colours and the energy and the movement. And I like something you do quite a lot where you paint around you do a background, then you do a negative space thing. That's
I did that with that one. I threw some paint up there, and then I pulled it all together.
Again, you get a lot of energy in that.
And the sea is just here, so it's like a sort of the docks or something. It's almost like somebody mentioned Chernobyl. It's like a disaster happening, basically an accident happening.
Although it's very beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's one of my favourites. It probably is my favourite. Yeah. And it was very spontaneous and it just came just magic. I mean, I started with the orange, just squiggling around.
The orange really
I'm really
vibrates.
So into orange,
Yeah. Very good. And of course, we were talking earlier about how when you're standing in front of these pieces, the vertical ones seem even bigger and more dominating, don't they?
I love the tall ones. For me, work so much better, but they're not probably as sellable as the landscape shaped ones, because people put, if you've got a huge house, put it behind a sofa or something.
Wow.
A massive place. But these, for me, are they work so well for me. And this portrait shape.
Well, I love the ambition of it in that, very few people would have a space big enough for any of these. And so they're almost like big follies. I was saying the best people who are going to buy these would be galleries and museums.
I'm going to try and find a gallery, but they weren't really just, I knew they were going to be really hard to sell, and that's not about selling, it's about doing it.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it. Look at this figure here. What's this?
Well, this is a very, very depressing subject, and I've made it very fairy-like because it's about child abuse.
Right. And what's the figure on the horse?
Basically, that's a child, children in Afghanistan having to marry, 10, 11-year-olds having to marry 70-year-old men and stuff. But basically, that's the sort of evil city above.
Right.
And then the cloud sort of turns into a tree of life, the sort of natural progression that children are growing up too quickly.
What about the yellow crow?
Well, that's a sort of sign of freedom, really.
Okay.
But, children I've made them sort of cartoon like Pluto or cartoon like figures, because children should be in their imagination. They should be playing in peace. It's a peaceful setting.
Yeah.
And that's the evil of adults and the abuse that's going on. Well, I just can't believe it.
No, it's a powerful piece.
And I wanted to make it beautiful, even though it's dark.
Yeah. Well, you've got those soft pinks and blues that give you that juxtaposition.
I'm very happy.
Yeah.
And that's got a couple of paintings underneath.
How's that?
I did a similar one, but I just didn't like the style I was doing. It was too figurative. I wanted to make it a little bit abstract.
Yeah.
A little bit representation.
So even though these pictures have a fairly strong narrative, you're still quite intrigued and seduced by the completely abstract.
I am.
What is that then?
Because, I haven't really. I've done maybe half a dozen abstracts, maybe a bit more. But I don't feel I'm ready. I think for me anyway, I think it's good to learn to draw. I mean, I've spent years drawing and trying to, represent what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And then I got really bored with all that, and the leap I made from going from figurative to what I'm doing now was so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so hard. Some people can't
Yeah.
break away.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to break away.
Sure.
And be more free and loose and just let your, just do it without even thinking what you're doing. It just comes up. All this is done without a plan in the world, you know.
So, okay, what about this one?
This is very dark. This is about racism.
Oh.
And it's called The Gift at the same time because, you know, and I used the background. It's almost like dried blood, really.
Right.
The colour.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, the white supremacy.
Uh-huh.
And, but, it, you know, I love the painting.
And are they're birds, right?
Yeah, they're sort of like doves of love.
Right.
And I think we should give, you know, it's a sort of thing about giving more and being more generous with each other and helping each other, basically, instead of separating. I was so isolated.
To me, that would make a great poster. You know, maybe a political one.
No, I'm really happy how.
Have you ever done any poster print work?
No.
No. Okay, let's move along now.
Another dark subject is
and pretty colours.
immigration.
Immigration, okay.
And like lots of children, you know, separated from their parents, all trying to stick together, but they're all separate.
Yeah.
And then there's the barbed wire, of course, you know, all enclosed, and you know, young mothers having to look after the younger sister or having babies themselves. Yeah. And there's a sort of religious figure there because I think religion has so much to answer.
Are you using chalk in that?
No, not
What's
chalk.
the media?
I'm using crayons and layers, and I'm rubbing. I think I rub down a bit. Wow. Charcoal, but I spray.
I like the crosses.
So the death, you know, the cemeteries.
Yeah. And
then that's sort of like people chopping the trees down, and then the animals are all displaced. So it's about displacement, really.
What's the blackboard? Is that a blackboard?
No, that's like the tree trunks just being chopped off.
Oh, I see.
And it's basically about displacement, really, about sadness. You know, these poor people are just everywhere, nowhere to go. You know, and the poppy growings and you know, people, slaves and whatever.
Yeah. What a crazy world we live on.
So.
We live in, isn't it?
Yeah, and then this, I wanted to put this next to it because that's a very serious. And this is the mad society we live in. Everyone's having face jobs, lip jobs, nose jobs, and that one is like so gross. She's turned into practically a Martian. They're not really real people anymore. Right. And I just can't understand what's going on. Right. You know, young people are having even
body modification
under 20s doing face jobs, and there's no turning back once you start. Yeah. For me, I just can't believe what's going on. It's such a superficial society in so many ways. And it's also the internet, you know, they're all copying. They want to look like someone who's rich and famous. Everyone wants to be rich and famous.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit very caricature-like, but they're meant to be.
Yeah. And then we've got a work in progress here on the floor.
Yes, I don't know what to do. This was basically chaos.
Right.
And then we're all going to end up in the black hole in the middle, but I haven't finished it. I'm just using up old paint on here.
Right.
It's coming together.
It's a bit of a Jackson Pollock pop.
You know, I'm developing it slowly, but I don't know when to put it anyway.
Yeah, it's still in progress.
I've improved it a lot. Yesterday I did some on that.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not my thing, but some people like it.
Okay, now here's something that's a lot more figurative, isn't it?
And that's about the women and men. It's called Beast of Burden. Right. That one's called Beyond Recognition.
Right. But a lot of people.
Beast of Burden and women's inequality.
Oh, okay.
And you know, sexual being sexual objects.
Right.
And then I set it in a sort of with a camel. You know, it's called Beast of Burden. Women are used as camels for drumming and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, they're called mules, aren't they?
Yeah. And
That's slightly different, isn't it?
I like this orange face in the corner, and I love the head. And I just like, I mean, what? Because as much as I love abstract expressionist art very much, but I also like a little bit of figurative.
Yeah.
I like it. Either way, you want a story. When you look at a Pollock, you can sense and feel the tension and the angst it's gone into.
Yeah.
Same with a Rothko, even though it's very simple. And there's a story there, and these are more illustrated stories in a way, aren't they? And they're always fascinating. I like the big foot as well.
Yeah, I like the big. I don't know if it's finished. I sort of I faded her out of it.
Right.
Because she was too prominent.
Right.
I love her orange hair.
Right.
But it's sort of a strange.
Yeah.
And the snake is sort of like means like attachment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what do you call it? When
Yeah.
you're tied up.
Yeah. I sense the world is becoming a more. I think I sense that the sovereignty of the woman, of the female, is becoming into its power again.
Yeah, slowly, but there's still
a long way to go
across the world. I mean, especially on the other side of the world.
Women have always, for me, been the stronger sex.
I mean, you know, women are so much stronger than men, really.
Absolutely.
In so many ways, but that's why men keep them down, because
the fear.
Women were, you know, ruling.
Do you think we could ever reach a matriarchal age again, where women?
This one's not finished. I'm working on it.
Right.
And it's going to be kind of childlike, like it's going to be called Kingdom. So that, you know, with all the animals free and all the, that's actually a polar bear on his last bit of ice.
Oh.
And they're all mixing together.
Right.
And I've only just started that, and it's not really.
Just talk about some of the characters in there. Go up to the canvas and.
Well, that one's him, that sort of cat-like thing.
It's not a hyena.
No, it's trying out to the world to kind of save the animals. Really.
Right.
Because I find animal cruelty, and especially in Spain, it's appalling. And I just can't bear it. That's a sort of another beast of burden, you know, burden, horse, whatever. But they're, in a way, I want them to be animals that don't really exist, in a way. And sort of this monkey is going to meet this polar once the ice melts. But I've got a long way to go on that. I'm really not happy with it yet. But I'm liking the way it's coming. I
love the drips.
Yes, I'm going to leave all the drips on the bottom.
I like the spider as well. That's a bit like that Spanish sculptor Borges.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she did a huge
yes, I've seen
sculpture of the spider. Yeah, fantastic.
And I want to make that as like the perfect world, which doesn't really exist.
Could you see yourself going into other mediums of sculpture? And
I used to do wood carving when I was a teenager, but no,
okay.
Not really. No, I'm really into this.
This is your
yeah, I mean, it's
voice.
pretty hard work sculpting. I know people really, especially stones. Now
this is an old one, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, what I did was I got a bucket of red paint, and I dipped string in it, and I just slashed it. I just used slashing, and then of course I did the negative space and found quite some interesting bits in there.
Yeah, I was going to say about the other one and this one. People have mentioned there's a sort of if it maybe subliminal reference or association to Bacon, Francis Bacon.
Well, I want it. It's going to be called The Lives of Others,
right?
Because we don't really know about other people's suffering, and it's meant to sort of be blood-like, I suppose. You know, that they're wounded. They're all wounded people.
Yeah.
And I had such fun doing it. You should have seen me at the end of the day, because it kept slashing back at me.
They look like knife cuts or something.
This studio was to throw paint around, and that one I really threw paint around. I love doing that, but it doesn't work with all the others. So
well, it's great being in your studio. I did a little series of photographs of artist chairs in their studio last year, which went down quite well. Looking at your chair, I know you don't sit in chairs very often.
I stand on that.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I don't want to go up the top, and I just need it.
You've got so much energy. You're running around all the time.
I'm
anyway.
up and down the ladder.
But I find I spend as much time, if not more, looking at the paintings rather than painting them often. Do you do that?
I do sit back and look, and just if I'm having my lunch, I'll just stare at it and go, I don't like that.
Basically,
it's an elimination.
Yeah.
You know, when you
Yeah.
do make marks and stuff,
Yeah.
you don't just get rid of it. And then
Yeah.
you've got layers underneath.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
build up from
Yeah.
shitty stuff
Yeah.
that you don't like to something amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful being immersed in your world, Jim. It's so fascinating and inspiring.
I've so enjoyed it. I can't tell you, it's just been,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you for letting us in. Now let's maybe let's sit down and see if there's anybody who wants to ask any questions. So there's George. Hi, George.
Can I just ask a question, Jim?
Yeah.
I know we when we've been sort of messaging to set this up, I know that you said this is a hugely, you know, kind of massive, challenging project. I mean, the work there is absolutely incredible. I mean, really is sensational. What while you know, over the period of time you've been doing this, what sort of 2.5 months now, I guess, you know, what sort of emotions have you been through while you've been working on these?
Well, there wasn't any anger or anything. It was just pure inspiration when it came. You know, when it comes, basically, I'm not thinking about anything. That's the only time I can do what I think is good work, is when I'm not thinking about anything. And that's where I think, you know, I've been questioning myself of what is inspiration. It's really difficult, but it's a blank head, like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And inspiration just comes, and when I'm not inspired, I have to go home and walk away because I just don't, it doesn't work for me.
But Jim has had a very rich life, actually. I mean, one of the stories we were talking about the other day that blew me away, and maybe this is where all the real emotional depth comes from, is the experiences Jim's had. Was around 30 years ago, Jim was nanny to Keith Richards' kids for a year.
Well, Marlon was 18 months old.
Marlon, yeah, amazing. Now, imagine what that experience would do to inform your artistic art. Now, that was good fun, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good fun. They were making sticky fingers at the time.
Yeah,
so
and Keith was with Anita.
Yeah, he was with Anita, and Anita and I would go off and walk with the dogs along the beach and have a great time. And then he was off every night. All the band were rehearsing all night, you know, so didn't see much of him during some of the time. But it was, and then they had a greenhouse full of grass. So when I arrived there, and it was growing through I mean, there were broken panes, and it was growing right through. And I went back and I said, "My God, you've got so much grass!" And Keith said, "Oh, it doesn't do it. It doesn't work." And I said, "Yes, it bloody does." So I put some onto the grill, and I was the joint roller, and it did work. And I used to every week, if I went to London back to to London for the weekend, I'd sneak in there, get a newspaper, and just wrap the whole thing and turn all my friends with, because he didn't really care about it really. So anyway, I had a great time there, but they fired me in the end. So I don't know why, but they fired me.
Too good looking, probably.
No, it was just Anita broke into my bedroom at 8 o'clock. They'd been rowing a lot. She came to, you know, "You can go today. I tell you things, you don't listen to me. You can go." And that was it. So I sneaked into the greenhouse before I left. Anyway.
Imagine being fired by Anita Pallenberg. It must have been bad.
Yeah. Well, you know. But before that, I worked for Alice Pollock, who was with Ozzie Clark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was her nanny. She had 3 kids, 3, 5, and 7. And but she let me wild. I mean, she used to run off and have affairs with Frank Zappa and stuff like that, and leave me. I was only 18 or something.
In the 60s, this must have been.
Yeah, and I was alone with these 3 kids for like a week at a time. But she let me. She said, "You can." You know, I was painting zebras all over the living room walls and the hallway, and she let me live. She was great. I loved her.
And actually, Jim's got an autobiography of memoirs called Zigzag.
Oh yes.
And that will be on sale here
on
the 25th when the exhibition opens. So you can get some more stories of Jim's incredible life. And one of the speakers at the festival, Space Mountain, Mim Scala, knew Jim in the 60s. And Mim was an associate of the Stones as well. Actually, I think helped Brian Jones and Keith go to Morocco to record the Jujuka drummers initially, and Mim's coming back for the festival in October for some more stories.
Yes, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic stories.
We were hanging out together in Marbella in 1970 when he was in Marbella, and you know, he was good.
Yeah.
He was great.
So, Giles, any other questions?
And if anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away. I mean, one from me, maybe another one from me, if I may, just while everybody's maybe sort of thinking. There are some fairly, like you said, dark subjects, but at the same time, incredible color, like the one about displacement.
Yes.
Like incredible sort of bright, almost like sort of very optimistic colors.
It's hope, isn't it? There's hope, change. I do a lot of paintings about death and all sorts of things, but they don't. I don't know what it is. After disaster, I did a painting after the Marchioness disaster, one after Charlie Hebdo. That inspired me to do this painting. And my friend died. I did this massive painting, that and the last thing. But death is part of everything,
What's the skull?
Well, that's a Tibetan to ward away the evil spirits.
Oh, yeah.
It's
beautiful.
Yakbone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. You're a friend of death, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I think death is another journey. I think, when I think when you die, you go back to base and then you set off again. So it's, for me, I'm not frightened of death. I think if you live your life to the full, death shouldn't frighten you. No one wants to talk about death in England and places like that, whereas death is part of everything.
I think you only have to look at the night sky where it's clear and see the universe unfold as stars to realize
it's beautiful.
We're part of that.
Yeah, but it's it's supposed to be an amazing journey. But I do it because I just thought with this, I'm doing big paintings. I think I should have a big subject, I mean, I didn't plan it, but as they were developing, I realized they were quite very serious issues, which is happening at the moment. And I just thought, I've got to say something in them, they've got to mean something. So that's what they are. It's terminal, because this is a bit like a bus station terminal. And the exhibition's called Terminal because we're all heading for the end if we're not careful.
So if you could go back in time and give your 18-year-old self some advice, and if there are any young artists out there listening and watching, what would that be?
Just get on with it.
There you go. But how have you achieved your confidence? The strength of confidence in the work is huge.
It comes with age, I think, confidence.
Yeah.
Well, it's doing it, because I remember when I was, I used to decorate houses, do special effects in houses, work on film. But I remember the first major job. I'd done kitchens and stuff for interior designers, and then I had the Maharani of Jaipur's house to do in Chelsea.
That's a big gig.
And I had to drag, because dragging was quite a, it's easy in little sections, but you drag a wall, it's supposed to look like silk in a way, and you have to go up the ladder and down the ladder with your brush and keep the brush as still as possible all the way down to the bottom, do the whole wall. Anyway, halfway across the wall, my paint dried up, because you've got to keep the whole thing wet and you do one section at a time, or you do a whole wall at a time. And I thought, fuck, and so I wiped it all off. Luckily, there was no designer there. I was on my own. So did it again, and it worked. And then I did the whole room. And that gave me so much confidence to do the next big job, because I think once you've done it, if you're frightened of everything, you're never going to do anything in your life, are you?
No.
You just got to, this for me, I can't believe that I didn't know what I was going to do, and I've got all these paintings. For me, it's the confidence. It was, I don't know if it was confidence or just inspiration to do it.
Yeah, what a combination. But I know myself, and I know many other artists have this massive fear of the blank page, of starting something, becoming self-aware of criticism or things like that. And
that's ego, isn't it?
And at the end of the day, as you say, you just got to
do it. Make a
face the
mark.
fear and do it anyway.
The thing is to make your first
Yeah.
few marks.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean that
Yeah.
that pastely one in the middle was, you know, I did a couple underneath. I wasn't quite happy with them, so I worked on it. And, you know, you've got to be happy with them at the end. I could have let it go as it was. But I just no, it's not right. And you've just got to make a mark.
Yeah.
The mark is the first mark, the first step.
Yeah.
I think there's a sort of comment in the chat from Georgina, which is about you know, the one about body dysmorphia being totally on point as well. You know, it's very, very relevant today.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, there's a comment in the chat which you might not be able to see from Georgina about the one about body dysmorphia.
Can you read that out, Charles?
It says, I think the one about body dysmorphia is so on point.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very,
very relevant today. Very relevant.
Yeah,
around here in Portobello, there's been like an explosion of young women having the whatever it is in their lips, Botox on their lips, and it just looks awful.
It looks awful, and they become more. I mean, that one at the bottom left, she looks so distorted and unreal. Well, they're not real anymore.
No.
You know what's wrong with aging gracefully? Every line. You know, a guy said to me, actually, this guy died that I did that big painting. And he said to me, it was the most insulting thing I'd ever heard. He said, you know, the worst thing, he was madly in love with me. And he said, the worst thing about you are your wrinkles.
Oh my God.
And I was really, and he wasn't trying to be nasty. He was saying, that's the worst thing. Everything about you is wonderful except your bloody wrinkles. And I was quite knocked back by that. Really hurt me. And then, you know, I was talking to a friend about a week later. She said, you know, no, I'm proud of my wrinkles. Every line shows, you know, is part of my life, and everything shows in the face.
It's the creases of your muscular movement on your face, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
you know, yes, exactly.
It's the expressions you've made in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, I just, I don't care. I mean, I would never go to it's like handing someone a knife and saying, cut me.
No, but can I just play devil's advocate
go on.
and say, you know, people adorning their bodies, changing their bodies, and their therefore identity has gone on since the dawn of time.
Yeah, but that tattoos, that's slightly different.
Is it though?
Yes.
Well, they're permanent.
No, but they're not changing the shape of their face. I mean, look at Michael Jackson. He was so beautiful as a young boy.
I don't get it.
I don't get it at all.
But nevertheless, I defend the right for people to do that if they want to do that. We're in an age now where people are really having for the first time for centuries the ability to do that.
Yeah, that's
publicly.
the problem, isn't it? We've got the ability to do anything, even if it's right or wrong, or morally wrong, or anything. We, you know, cloning and stuff. I mean, we've got the power to do so much. Yeah. And is it right? You know, there's some, you know, there should be a limit to how much. Yes.
How you express yourself?
I mean, you know,
surely.
when I was little, I didn't know anything. I mean, there was no, you know, the porn magazines were at the top of the newsstand. And there was nothing on TV about sex, nothing. I know it was a time time, but now children have access to porn. You know, it's under 10, and they think sex is porn. You know, and all these girls that have been harassed to, you know, show their naked bodies on a screen to all the boys and all this. And I just think it's wrong. Children need to grow up slowly and have a childhood. Children aren't having a childhood anymore. They don't go and play. I used to play hopscotch. I used to play marbles. I used to play in the countryside. They don't even go outside now. I just think it's going completely the wrong way.
I don't know.
I'm sorry,
I've got kids in their 20s and they have a different experience. It's their life. It's different from ours and the way we grew up.
I know, but they're not doing sport. They're not doing exercise. You know, it's really good for your mental health to be creative and physically doing stuff. Yeah. They don't do it anymore.
They're playing a lot of chess.
Chess is great. Chess is great. But I think, you know, there's a lack of so much.
Yeah, well, we're living in a virtual world with the internet and stuff now.
It's too much, I think.
Possibly.
No, it's got its good points.
Kids who've grown up with it find their own balance with it. The opportunities it presents to them. I think the kids are all right. I think the kids, find their way.
Maybe
Regardless.
yours do, but I don't think a lot of kids, do.
Oh, I don't. I'm pretty positive about it.
Right.
Nevertheless, not to, I'm not disagreeing with what your points are at all. I think you're right, but there's a balance there. Anyway, moving on.
Well, it's a serious issue.
It is, but it's the same with gender. People changing their gender, they can change their gender now. Why not? If they want to, if that's the personality they want to explore, why not?
That subject. I wanted to be, I'm called Jim because I wanted to be a boy when I was little. I hated being a girl. And I used to have a crew cut and I used to pretend I was a boy. I mean, boys would come up to me and, excuse my language, they'd come and say, you girl or a boy? And I'd go, boy, cunt, just to sort of prove to them I was a nasty little boy. And I convinced myself practically that's why. But by the time I got to 17, 18, I wanted to be a girl. And if I'd been allowed to have an operation then, I think, you don't know who you are when you're little.
Well, maybe going under the knife is always a serious proposition, isn't it? But the idea of just being able to explore and experiment like that, surely a good thing.
But it's like the face jobs. Once you've done it, you can't really go back.
I think they can do a lot with surgery today.
All right, well, it's...
But again, I defend the right of people being able to do that. It's their body.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't living now because I would have, found it...
Yeah, difficult.
Well, I wouldn't... I'm glad nothing happened.
Well, right, yeah. But mind you, when you were 17, 18, was that whole countercultural revolution, which included a big leap into feminist ideas of women.
April Ashley was in the Potter in King's Road,
Wow.
She was great.
So you were immersed in
I mean, they thought I was a boy, and I used to get followed home by gay men and women because they couldn't tell what I was. I loved it. I loved being androgynous, and just sort of blending into. I was, I didn't really stand out. I was part of it.
Yeah. And you found your own identity out of all of that in the end, didn't you?
It takes time, doesn't it? I don't know who I was when I was 20. I don't know what the kind of person I was. I don't remember.
Sure. Sure. It's a journey.
I mean, Jim, actually, I mean, do you think that your art can help, kind of that younger generation to, with their own identity? Do you see that your art has got, or any art has got a kind of role in that?
I think it's really important, actually, even in older age, to, I did a whole series on my childhood, which was, there's a bit traumatic at times, and I think it helped me. It was really cathartic and even if you write, if you're a writer, write it all down. And a painter, when I was doing these paintings in my childhood, so much was coming out, and I think it's really important to express yourself, whatever it is, in dance, theatre, anything artistic, and you can bring so much out. That sort of people dwell so much on the past, and I think you've got to eliminate all that negativity of things. Everyone has some things dark in their past. You've got to eliminate it
or transform it into beauty.
But you can live so much happier when you haven't got all that weight in your head about all that rubbish that you're carrying around with you.
Better out than in.
Definitely. And you just put it on paper. I've done that, and it's helped me so much. I find I'm really freer and I'm more happy. I know you think I'm angry, but I'm not. I'm just.
Where did that come from?
I'm not angry. I've got a bit of a personality. It's a bit of a dispense system because I was very shy. For so many years, I couldn't even express myself. People said I was like talking to a brick wall. I mean, I was terrible. Really introvert, withdrawn, and now I can just be on. I'm honest. I just say what I'm thinking. I'm not beating about the bush. And people who know me know that what I'm saying is what I believe. And I just think it's so important to express yourself now.
An authentic life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know I'm real. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I am who I am. And I'm, you know, I'm not ashamed of it.
Who are you then?
In one word, I don't know. I can't say who I am in one word. I can express it. That's me. This is me. This is me for the last 2 months, basically.
And what a great joy it is for us to experience that, Jim. Okay, I think we're probably getting to a point where we should be wrapping up, no, Giles?
Yep, that's all good. I don't know if anybody's got any questions they want to.
Can I just jump in there quickly about the
Kayvon.
Yeah,
excellent.
Can I just jump in about the? So it's really early for me in the morning here, but I woke up because I just wanted to see this scale.
Where
and
are you,
scope.
Kayvon?
Toronto, Canada. So it's about 9:53 in the morning here, but I couldn't miss something of this scope or scale, like what Jim has achieved and pulled off there. The gigantism of it all is, you know, like an airplane hangar or a warehouse space like that to accommodate liters and upon liters of paint, and you know the size of the actual canvases. It's not just the subject matters, because obviously you want to provoke thoughts, and obviously an artist, no matter what sex they are, no matter what age they are, if they can achieve something like that in like this terminal project you're doing, Jim, to invoke thought and to sort of to be not directly provocated, but spark ideas and sort of influence people in the way that, you know, this is the if this is what you've been, all the emotions you felt with every drip of paint you spilt. I mean, it's like kind of like spilling blood in a way. It's all the hard feelings, the emotions, your inner self going into these things. You know, things like subject matters like animal cruelty, freedom of children, the appearance of younger people, who their role models should be, and that they just sort of distort their, you know, images. This is something that's very important, and I think you parlayed it perfectly into something of a massive sort of size and scope. I think this is something of an unprecedented thing. Youth obviously mentioned Damien Hirst, but I don't think he's done something to this effect that you've posed emotionally and also thoughtfully anyway on that creative bent. And I just wanted to know,
beautifully put.
I just wanted to know with the size and everything that you've done with these works of art, did your background in, you know, with the stage sets, interior design, film, and that play a big part into the whole planning and prepping for something of this massive, you know, sort of undertaking?
Yeah, well, I'm not frightened of big works. I've been doing it for 40 years, doing big film sets and stuff. I'm always having to do the side of a, you know, house.
I don't know who these people are.
So it's not daunting to me, but I've never painted pictures, you know, pictures like of this size. So it was a challenge in that, and I love a challenge. You know, I love a challenge, and you know, and if you just do it, it'll come out. I think if you're, and I wanted to do it so much for so long, and I've done it now. So you just have to do it, don't you? Get on with it.
It's the right motivation, I guess, but it's epic all the same. So I'd love to see how it's sort of if it gets out to the world at large, how it's, you know, sort of looked upon, and hopefully you can inspire some change with these, because it's definitely something that's seems to me unprecedented in a way.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kayvon. That's really kind of you to say that.
Yeah, really nice comment.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Silence.
I can say something. I wanted to ask how much the book is going to be, the zigzag book.
Oh, I think it's 20 euros or something. It's got 50 color prints and 50 short stories. They're essays about my life. I've changed some of the names because the guy we edited it together, and he's told me, I mean, I couldn't even put Keith Richards' name. I mean, he's just, I don't know why I listened to him.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's because I can't remember anything in the order of my life. So I just did essays on little pockets of they're all good time. There's nothing depressing in that at all. They're all good stories, little stories, and yeah. And
How
so
many
it's a
copies?
nice little book.
What's the print run?
Oh, I only had 300. They were so expensive to print with the 50 color prints in there.
Yeah.
So
It's a very good value. It's that's
very good.
Yeah.
And I've got about probably 30 or 40 left. I've sold them all myself one by one.
Yeah, and hopefully Jim will have a few works up at the Space Mountain Festival and some books for sale there.
Yeah.
And also there'll be prints available here and a catalogue of other smaller works that are also available.
Because I've got a little gallery where I live and I've got my normal size paintings, loads and loads and loads of them.
Which are amazing. I've got a few of them, they're incredible. I can only recommend everyone's investment into Jim's art. I think Jim is one of the great undiscovered artists of our age, and not for long. I can't see Jim remaining under the radar for long with this work and these huge statements that you've created. It's again, I keep saying I'm so inspired by it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So George, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I mean, not for now.
Giles?
No, all good for me.
Okay. Well, I'll just to say thanks again to Jim. Thanks again to Matt, who's been doing our second camera. Jim actually provided her truck for Matt's promo video. He's got a single low biddy coming out in September. That's the truck. It's an amazing truck. And we drove out to the desert in Almeria to do this video shoot. And it was a great day, wasn't it?
That was really good. It was so relaxing.
Thanks to Giles and thanks to everybody for tuning in and everybody.
Thanks, Giles.
Outside. And
I've finally met you, I think, the first time.
Yeah, and let's do a quick plug on Giles is doing a great podcast at the moment. I think you've done about 30 episodes now. What's the link for that?
Oh, that's a good. I mean, it's the podcast is called "I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee" and it's on Apple and Spotify, and then there's a YouTube channel.
That's a Ramones reference.
It is a Ramones reference, yes, indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
Great.
And it's slightly tongue in cheek, saying I want to do it, but there's no way that I can do it.
Okay, so thanks everybody, and have a great Sunday afternoon. Or morning in Canada. Yeah. Cheers, Kayvon.
Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.